stupid is that? Why do you call it skip day when you have to tell everybody? So there was 17 in my class, and there was 7 of us that met the next morning, the skip day morning, at 2 of the kids' parents had cars, and we had 2 cars. And we met at the Glenville and filled up my gas at the log cabin filling station, charged it to the high school, and took off to Charleston.
Mm.
Charged it to the high school?
Charged to the high school. I took off to Charleston.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we had a good time. We saw the little fleas. Remember the fleas they had in the Capitol building? The male and the female fleas dressed up. We had a good time. We got back to Grantsville, and the movie that was playing then was From Here to Eternity. And we wanted to see that at the drive-in. So we didn't have enough money. We'd had to spend all of our money, so we didn't have enough money. So we put them in the trunk of the car, and we went into the drive-in, and then met some kids there, and they told us what was going to happen the next morning when we went back to school. Well, it did. Homeroom was in the library of the old school there at Glenville. My homeroom was, and Mrs. Miller was my homeroom teacher. And Mr. Stinnett walked in, the principal, and he just let us know real quick you're going to have 3% off your grade. You're going to have this and that and so on. And I didn't say a thing. Now, this is truth, gospel truth. I never said a thing. Annie Bell said the rest of it didn't go with us. Went the next day with approval. And one of them in there was his Principal Stinnett's son, also named Leroy Stinnett Jr. And he went. And Annie Bell said, well, if your darling little son Leroy had been along there wouldn't have been anything said about it. And I said, that's what I think too. He didn't get her. Came over and knocked me for a wallet. Down I went, just like a ton of brick. And I got up and I was laid into him, and I got him down and pounded him. And finally I let him up, and he said, you're suspended. And I said, good, I'll get out of your school and be glad to. And the whole class followed. All of them followed, so all of us were suspended.
The whole class?
The ones that went.
Oh, okay, the 7 of you.
All of us that went.
7 out of 17.
The rest of them were already on their skip day.
Skip day. Oh
so
my goodness.
We all got suspended for 2 weeks. Well, they didn't write a letter or nothing else. They didn't have phone call. So there was no way they knew.
Oh.
So I just get on the bus every morning there at the gate, the yard gate, and ride to school, and I'd go down to Tyler Wright's barbershop and shoot pool all day.
Oh my
Go
goodness.
back and get on the bus. But anyway, after the 2 weeks was up, we went back to school, and I couldn't stand it then, because they had spent their money we earned from the 2 class plays is where the skip day money came from.
Okay.
Well, we didn't get spend any of that except what we charged to the gas at school. We didn't even pay that. We had to, but I decided, well, that's not fair. So I went to the principal and I said, I starred in both of those plays, and we deserve our share of the money. Well, he let me know real quick where that was going. So I never stopped there. I went to Roland Butcher. Roland Butcher was the superintendent. I went right down to the superintendent's office. It wasn't even it was down in that church, by the church there. Wasn't even in the high school area. And I went down there and talked to him, and he took my side. And the next morning, the principal wrote a check for $1.60 some cents to each of us.
Oh my goodness.
$1.60. All that trouble for $1.60.
Well, that was a lot of money in those days.
That's a lot of money back then. Yeah.
What would have happened if your dad found out?
Oh, he'd have watched him cut the blood out of Don's back. That's what he had done to mine.
He beat him anyway. I mean, he had a lot of things from my dad that I never.
I'd have been going somewhere. I'd have been going somewhere.
He beat you till you bleed?
Huh?
He would beat you till you bleed?
Oh, yeah. I've seen him cut the blood out of Don's back.
With a switch?
But Don was like me. Don, well, I don't say, he got along with Pop better than I did.
Yes, you were the most rebellious one of the bunch.
I probably had the most trouble with Pop.
I've heard you tell that story before, and I must not have known that you were not going to school. Did you tell? Did I know that you?
Oh yeah, the brothers and sisters.
Did you tell me not to say anything to Mom?
Yeah, sure. I told you not to say anything. I probably made you swear by somebody.
And even back then, they stuck together.
Well, we did.
Yes,
we did
I know.
Stick together against Pop.
Yeah.
I mean, we would play a trick on it. We'd be digging potatoes, and he made sure that none of the potatoes were missed. And once in a while, you see one, you just missed one. And
Right.
Well, we'd find one that was a whole bottom of it was rotten, but the top was nice and shiny, and we'd cover it all up with dirt with that little speck. And he'd say, "Boys, you missed one." And we gotta get that. But we
Oh,
just,
that nasty old smelly rotten
Oh,
potato.
right. And of course,
Slimy old rotten
we
potato.
wouldn't dare laugh, or
No.
we'd get a beating. You know. But we had to stay together.
Uh-huh.
There's honor among thieves. I thought that.
Obviously, he believed in whippings.
Yeah, obviously he did.
No, that's why my grades were, like I never did do any harm to anybody, but I was always in the mischief, always doing something.
Mm-hmm.
We had one of those old silos for a fire escape, just like a big old silo,
Yeah.
because it was a 2-story building. And I was working in the office, and I knew when the fire drill was going to be. So I would go out and put a bolt through the doors out the bottom.
Oh my goodness! If there was a real fire, everybody would have died.
The fireplace were off, and then I'll jump in there and they just stack up,
Oh my goodness!
The janitor come out, pull that bolt out, and they just
Oh my goodness! Oh.
I loved it. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got hurt a bit in it. It was just,
Did you get in trouble?
no,
nobody knew.
I never got in trouble for that. But I got in trouble for a lot of other stuff. I got my behind spanked more times than I can think about it in high school.
Oh.
I used to tell the kids that. I said, if I could give you 8 years of experience, I could raise your grade 2 letters. And I could. There were kids that I had that up here they had it.
Mm-hmm.
They just weren't interested. You couldn't get them interested in stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But maturity, it had this, because I barely made it through high school, and then I went to my first year of college because Pop didn't want me to go to the Army. Thought I was too young. I graduated at 17, younger than most of them.
Yeah.
So he didn't want me to go to the Army, so he talked me into going to college one year, and Willard gave me $200, and I went to college the first year, $200, and I got all C's except 1 B and 1 D, so I had a straight C average.
Uh-huh.
And then I went to the Army, and I came out of the Army, went back to college, and I had all B's but a few C's. And then when I went for my graduate degree, I graduated from college with a 3.6. So I didn't get any smarter. I just got a little more
Working harder.
responsibility.
Discipline and responsibility.
A little more maturity. The Army's the best thing that ever happened to me. I'd have probably been in jail if I hadn't gone to the Army.
You graduated from high school when you were 17, and your birthday's in May. So you were 17 in May, and you graduated that June.
Wow, you were
You were
really
really
young.
young.
Yes, I was
You
the
were
youngest
very
one.
young.
See, Dean was only 1 year. I graduated. Dean, almost all of them had 2 years or maybe 3 years between them. But Dean and I are only 1 year difference between Dean and I.
Wow.
So they must have sent you to school early.
You must just
Better
barely.
get this kid out of the house.
Yeah, he must have turned 4 in May and gone into school.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I graduated.
Wow.
I graduated young, and then I was out of college pretty young too, because I went full. You could take as many courses as you want. You paid $36 a semester,
Wow.
and you could take all the courses you wanted. So I just loaded up on all the courses that I could take.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Oh, he was a hard one to live with.
Yeah.
but I never did anything malicious. Mine was all jumping over hedges that you weren't supposed to jump over, and, stuff like that. But and then I got very upset at my principal Felton when he said I went in that when they had rules against chewing gum big deal with chewing gum in school.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just had a bought a new pair of pants and was have cafeteria duty, and I went in and I sat down on a chair, big wad of gum on my brand new pants.
On your
And I
pants.
was just young enough, to be impetuous, and I went down to the principal's office. I said, Mr. Felton, we got a rule in this school against gum chewing. Let's either enforce it or get rid of the rule. And you'd have to know Mr. Felton. He said, how long you been teaching, young man? I said, I've been teaching 5 years. Why? I've been teaching 37 years. You don't see any gum on my pants.
Could you look first before you sat, right?
I wanted to just punch you.
He was a good guy, wasn't
He
he?
was a super guy.
I went to that same school,
Oh,
and he
did
was
you?
my
One of the-
principal.
One of the few men I admired. Just one. He didn't. He didn't even have a master's degree.
Huh.
He was principal and didn't even have a master's degree.
Ah.
But he was just super. He was just. He knew human nature. He knew human nature. He was a philosopher. That's what he really was.
And that was a junior high, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade.
Wow, that's a hard age group to be
He was-
principal of.
He was just excellent. They called him the White Fox because he had white hair.
Oh, okay.
But he and Frank Smith. You remember Frank Smith, the black custodian? Between those two, they could catch anybody that did anything. They knew how to do it. I mean, those two just knew how to do
Well,
it.
they were in the hall all the time.
All the
Well, sure,
time.
the custodian's
All the
out
time.
there seeing
and,
whatever's
and the
happening.
principal was in the hall
Yeah.
all the time.
Frank was worthless as a custodian, but he was worth his weight in gold with
Yeah.
discipline.
Was seeing what was
Well,
going on.
well,
huh?
Mr. Felton knew everybody's name.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And you know what he would do? He would stay at home on a Friday evening football night and sell tickets to kids that didn't have a chance to get them beforehand.
Oh.
And they would sell tickets from his home to go to a football game.
Oh.
He just knew human nature. He was just. And I went to him. You would never know that, of course, but I went to him when. Remember the EPIC program? The EPIC program in high school. We would have been there when you were there.
Kind of. I don't.
EPIC, Elyria Project for Innovative Curriculum.
All right.
EPIC program, open school concept.
Mhm.
They built Westwood Junior High,
Yeah.
Westwood High School with no walls.
Yeah, I remember that.
I did all the research I could do on that. I read everything could be put on that. I even took professional leave and went and observed it. And then I started writing letters opposing that to the Chronicle Telegram. And every kid I had, if I had a really good kid, I'd said, "Oh, honey, you don't want him in that program." But if I had a really rascal, I'd say, "That sounds like a good thing." I bet I did as much to destroy that program.
My goodness.
But anyway, I wrote one of the letters I wrote, and Dr. Smittle, superintendent, took exception. I've still got the letter at home in my file. He recommended to the Leary Education Association for what the errors and stuff that I'd written. Oh, was I mad, because I know there were no errors in it. I had the exact number of kids that were in the program, and I had all my facts exactly right. And I was just livid. I went to his house at Brentwood. He lived in Brentwood. I went to his house at Brentwood, and I just told him what I planned to do. And he said, now, Virgil, you're just starting on your master's degree. Now just forget. He just had to get this out of his system. Just go on as if it never happened, and you'll